Hello everyone and welcome back. The comic book for Operation Deadly Omen is officially here. I do apologise that I am a few days late to this. I've had a lot going on in my personal life and just needed to prioritise that first. But I'm here now, and in this comic book we get to see the interrogation of Gerald Morris, also known as Deimos, by Ash, Doc and Buck. And of course this comic book takes place after Rainbow get Deimos in their custody. So drop a like on this video if you do go on to enjoy, maybe drop a comment since it does help with the algorithm, and subscribe if you're new. Without further ado, let's get into this. So this comic book takes place in Hereford base. They are specifically interrogating him in one of the bunkers, and Ash initiates the conversation. Gerald fucking Morris. He won't speak to me. Not one word, says Buck. Merde, if we don't get something soon, the council will relocate him, and we'll lose our leverage. And of course, we have been getting our first look at the Rainbow Overseeing Council, with our first one we're seeing being the Secretary General, which we've seen in the cinematic. I know this guy. Let me at him, says Ash. None, Ash. It's too soon. You're only here so I can monitor your recovery, says Doc. Exactly. He'll think I'm vulnerable. I could at least destabilize him, she replies. And then Buck and Doc converse in French. Of course, Buck is from Quebec, so he does natively speak French. And Doc says, "What do you think?" Buck replies by saying, "It can't hurt." Ash butts in by saying, "I speak French too, you know." Doc unwillingly agrees by saying, "Fine, don't do anything rash, and if it gets too much, I'll pull you out." We then move on to day one of this interrogation. We get our first look at a modern day Gerald Morris sporting a mustache, and a really nice detail here is the reflection in the window shows a younger version of these two people back when they first met, and we'll learn more about that later in this comic. But it's a nice reflection of seeing a version of them when they were friends and they're now foes. Cohen, wasn't sure you'd make it. I did. No thanks to you. I'm told you haven't been talking. What can I say? I'm a man of action. That's what you're calling it? And then Ash shows him a photo of Harry, Yahata, and Angel. Harry, of course, being killed by Deimos with his initial reveal. Yahata being the personnel that Azami was protecting and was murdered by Deimos via hired guns, which eventually brought Azami onto Team Rainbow. And Angel representing the recruits of Rainbow, which Deimos killed in the tower attack. And to this, Gerald simply replies with a grunt. So, we got your base, we got you. What do you have left to lose, says Ash. You tell me, says Deimos. Let's see. Estranged family, parents deceased, godfather on his deathbed, not to mention your career prospects. I can't imagine you'd thought you'd get away with this. What did you get out of it? Good old revenge not enough, replies Gerald. I know you're not that simple. I've read every piece there is to read written by you or about you, replies Ash. So you read your file then? Which leaves Ash in a moment of shock and disbelief. We move over to day 2 where we have a look at Ash's confidential file. And at the bottom, we can see that she was recommended by Gerald Morris, showing the history that they have with each other. And as well as this, it seems like Ash's birthday has been changed from what we originally knew it to be, and I assume a lot of operators have changed as well, because her birth year was originally stated as 1983, and I assume for reasons which maybe they won't explain, they've just changed the operators' birth years. That stuff was established by an old team years ago before the lore was taken seriously, so I imagine the new universe team want to sort of shift operators' birth years around a little bit to more fit with the story they're telling. But I think this does confirm, and a lot of people have asked me this, it confirms that this lore does take place in 2024, since she is born in 1990 and she's currently 33. So this is 2024. But let's continue reading. Morris was the one who started your file. Why does that matter? He's trying to buy himself time, says Buck. Maybe, but there's something else. I spent all night reading the file. He compared us a lot. He's saying I should already know why he did all of this. Well, do you? Or are we wasting our time, says Doc. Not yet, but I can use this. Ash then enters the interrogation room, and Gerald says this. Bright and early today, I see. Ash wastes no time and gets straight into questioning. The last time I saw you, you were giving a talk on explosives. It was my first year with the Bureau. Ironic, isn't it? Deimos replies. You were always a leader, an exemplar. I almost didn't believe you were Deimos. You haven't changed though, have you? So try me. Starting with Bogart. Tell me why he had to die. convinced me that it was the right thing to do. He got in the way. There's no grand scheme there. You don't feel responsible, replies Ash. Responsible? I was the only one being responsible that day. How? You had orders. Fuck the orders. It wasn't the first time Rainbow let politicians get in the way, and it sure wasn't the last. Don't tell me you never wished you could burn it all down. I made my choice. Rainbow was holding us all back. What did you do, Morris? How did it go from that to this? And Gerald simply gives no reply. Ash turns to Doc and Buck and says, get him back to his cell. That hit a nerve, says Buck. He's still resisting. It feels like he's angry that I'm not meeting him where he is, replies Ash. Not a bad lead. Indulge him. See where it takes you. And Ash seems to sort of figure out what Gerald was talking about when he was making the comparison between him and her. And she says, if I'm Deimos, that means that every death was necessary. Maybe not right, but necessary. Which moves us over to day 3, where Ash goes and visits Gerald in his cell. A man can't have a little peace at night now, says Gerald. I thought you'd be happy to see me. Just me, no man behind the mirror. I think I understand. Not that I would have gone this far. Gerald turns to Ash and says, now this I gotta hear. When Harry became 6, I had my doubts. I questioned him, opposed his decisions. He wasn't one of us. Never had to be the one pulling the trigger. Go on? Part of me accepted that things change, and this was one of them. But deep down I thought, couldn't we do better? And then he stepped down, showed us that we could redefine what Rainbow is. We would have, if not for you. Rainbow doesn't have to die, Morris. It just needs to change. How about a compromise? I'm listening. This is obviously bigger than you. Give me something to work with. Show the others that we need you. You could turn this around. Doc and Buck come sprinting around the corner. What the hell are you doing? This is breach of protocol. Here's my offer. You take me into the field, I'll give you what you need. Oh, and I'll need my vendetta. And with that, that is the end of the Operation Deadly Omen comic book, which was actually a really good comic book in my opinion. I think a lot of people are going to look at this and not see any action. They're going to kind of be like, okay, that was a bit boring. But this gives us a lot about Deimos' perspective, why Gerald Morris done this, and the fact that him and Ash are pretty much alike. However, they're on two completely different sides of how they would have handled things. Ash had her issues with Harry. She didn't agree with him being leader necessarily, and she thought that Rainbow could change for the better. Gerald thought the same way. However, he went down a completely different path. But this seems to also imply that Gerald isn't the main bad guy. Deimos is definitely still a bad guy. Gerald Morris definitely isn't good. I do expect to see them go on a mission with Gerald, which I think a lot of people are going to find quite controversial. Working with the bad guy is never really something that typically goes well in stories, and I can't really see this ending well. But based on the end of the animated cinematic, which showed the backstory of Gerald Morris killing Daniel Bogart and becoming Deimos, it shows that he isn't alone, and by the seams of it, definitely not in charge. With the mention of Rainbow's Council being very prominent recently in this comic book, in the lore for the past half of the year, I would not be surprised if the people above the Kira's Legion and Deimos are actually politicians, world leaders. I think the lore is unraveling into a bigger conspiracy of basically evil world leaders infiltrating Rainbow, being the ones pulling the strings, orchestrating all of this. If Gerald Morris isn't at the top of this, then who is? So very excited to see where the lore goes from here. I am gonna see how it goes with Deimos being on the field, especially them giving him a gun. That is very dangerous. You know, you're gonna have to have 5 people pointing their gun at him the whole time on this mission. And I definitely don't think he's going to become a good guy. I definitely think they are just using him. Maybe he'll keep his word, but I don't expect him to become the next, big main good guy character. I still think he's going to be evil. And as well as this, I definitely think the way Ash talks in this could mean that she might be the next 6, the next director. I definitely think her story is leading that way, and if she does not become 6 within the next year, I'm going to be quite surprised. But yeah, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this comic book. Hopefully I explained enough of it as we went through to help anyone who is confused about different aspects. But drop a comment if you do have any more questions. I'm sure myself and my wonderful community will help answer them. And yeah, just give me your overall thoughts. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. I shall catch you all later. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.